Good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Farber, the radio play-by-play broadcaster here for the Charlotte Hornets, and it is a pleasure and a privilege to welcome you all here. A great occasion at Spectrum Center as we introduce our new Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Jeff Peterson. Along with those in attendance, we'd like to welcome all of our Hornets fans tuned in across the Carolinas and around the world on Hornets.com, ValleySports.com, and on WFNZ. Since taking over the team last summer, co-chairman Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin have shared a number of values and a vision for building the Charlotte Hornets into the premier franchise in the NBA. And as they've been introducing Jeff to our staff over the last couple of days, they've shared with us that they believe he is a culture driver, someone who embodies our values around integrity, candor, teamwork, accountability, competitiveness, and resilience. It's clear why they are excited to pass the reins of our basketball staff over to him, and we are thrilled to welcome Jeff and excited to add his leadership as we continue to build out the organization. With that, I'd like to pass things over to Hornets co-chairman Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin.
Thanks, Sam. You took a lot of our lines away, but that's all right. Well, look, thanks everyone for coming. First, we wanted to thank Mitch Kupchak, who I don't see here, but for all that he's done for the organization and will continue to do. He's obviously agreed to stay on as an advisor, and we appreciate that. And he'll be with us in that capacity in the future, and we appreciate him both doing what he did for the organization and then welcoming Gabe and I and working closely with us as we got through this deadline. So wanted to make sure we did that. Secondly, as Sam said, we do have the intention to create, and our vision is to create the premier franchise in the NBA, and that starts with people and culture. And finding the right people to help us get there is essential to our success. And finding Jeff and putting Jeff in this position is just a home run for us as a franchise. So we couldn't be more excited to introduce Jeff here today to all of you and for you to get to know Jeff. But I'll let Gabe talk a little bit about the process of hiring Jeff. But Jeff and I have known each other about 10 years now, and we met when I got involved in the Hawks in 2015, and Jeff was 26 at that time, maybe. And quite frankly, it didn't take very long to figure out that Jeff was going to have a great career and be incredibly successful in this line of work or whatever he chose to do. He's a special person, and we built a relationship there and maintained one. And he's just has a combination of skills which are going to drive us to great success. So maybe Gabe will talk a little bit more about how he went through this process to find Jeff, and then we'll let Jeff introduce himself.
First, Jeff, welcome to Buzz City. We're super excited to have you. This is obviously a very special day for the Charlotte Hornets. Sam, you did take some of my lines about core values, but I think when we met Jeff, and Rick's known him a lot longer, but I met him several months ago, and throughout this process got to know him a lot better. He represents the core values that we want to have as an organization. We began this process, post the trade deadline, with the intention of, bringing somebody in who could start to have an imprint, looking forward into the draft, into free agency, into really what's a big summer ahead for the organization as it relates to player development. I think typically in the NBA this is a somewhat unorthodox timing, but I thought it was really important, for us and where we're at to accelerate this process, prior to that, so we can move into the summer, ready to go as it relates to those items. The process itself, we started with a pretty significant list, through relationships, through NBA sources and reputations that people have throughout the league. And then we had multiple rounds of interviews. Rick and I were heavily involved in each of the rounds, and we had presentations that were put together. We had roster conversations, strategic outlooks. We even had personality and leadership tests that we do, and finally Jeff met with other owners of the organization. And throughout the whole process, it became pretty apparent that when you looked at the values that we hold dear as an organization, Jeff embodied all of those. And so the decision was pretty easy in the end. It was really easy, and we're excited to have him. I think the special thing about Jeff and it's been written about, but it's absolutely true, is his ability to build relationships kind of across the league, whether that's with players, coaches, staff, the media, other front offices, agents, ownership. We felt like this was something that he would continue to excel at in helping us, build the premier team both on the court and off the court. So I'll move it to Jeff. He's the guy we want to hear from today. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick and Gabe. Thank you to all of you guys for coming out today. I really appreciate it. I can't tell you how excited I am just to be sitting here in the seat today. Extremely thankful for this opportunity. It's an incredible situation to be a part of, and again, I'm just very, very thankful. Rick and Gabe have communicated very clearly that we want to turn this thing into the premier franchise of the NBA, and that's exactly what we're going to do. And I can't tell you how excited I am to do that in this beautiful city of Charlotte and the Carolinas in general. The fan base here, extremely loyal, knowledgeable, passionate, and just the community itself. I can't wait to get out there and have you guys help. So very thankful to get started in that way. I do want to say a few thank yous before we turn it over to some Q&As. And look, I'd be up here all day if I sat here and thanked everyone who's helped me along this journey, because it's been a long one. But first and foremost, I'll start with Rick and Gabe. As Rick addressed, I've known him now for 10 years, and I think the beautiful thing about our relationship is it extends beyond basketball. So whether that's me beating him in golf, or
never actually happened,
or pick up, whatever it may be. I think
that has happened.
I think it's important because you get to truly learn about someone in situations like that, and it's again, as he said, been clear since day one that I think we share a lot of the same values, and he's just an amazing person to be around. Basketball aside, just a quality human being that you want to build something with. And then going through the process, meeting Gabe was very fun, and it did not take long at all to see that we clicked. And yeah, we haven't had a pre-existing relationship, but again, just the core values and the vision, the fact that we're all three aligned. Gabe's been tremendously successful. I can't wait to continue to learn from him. And I know the three of us are going to push each other, challenge one another, which excites me the most. At the same time, we won't take it personal. And at the end of the day, we all three want the exact same thing, which again is to develop this and turn this into the premier franchise in the NBA. Next, I want to move it over to the Nets organization. There's some amazing people affiliated with that organization. I got there 5 years ago, and quite frankly, I didn't really know what to expect. But truly one of the better times of my career. I've met so many people there, and quite frankly, they've helped develop me and prepare me for the situation. So as Gabe touched on, just all the players that I've interacted with there in that organization, staff members from coaching staff, performance staff, front office, they pushed me, they made me better each and every day. So specifically, I do want to say thank you to Joe Tsai, Claire Tsai, Ollie Weisberg, and of course Sean Marks. Again, they were great to me, my family, and they allowed me to ultimately take this next jump in my career. Next, just want to say thank you to the Atlanta Hawks organization. They allowed me to get my career started in the NBA. So it's funny, you look back 12 years ago, had no idea that would lead to this moment now, but just really, really thankful to develop some relationships with players and staff, and just develop a relationship with that city too was amazing. Lastly, certainly not least, my parents who made it here today. Just the amount of sacrifice that they made for me growing up was special. So I just want to say thank you guys, and I love you guys. So.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome. For our media that's here, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you, and then please identify who you're representing here today before asking your question. We'll tip things off with Matt Raczynski.
How's it going? Matt Raczynski with Hornets.com. Just wanted to ask all three of you up there, there was obviously a good process that was put together with a handful of good candidates. Jeff, what do you think the one thing was that really made you stand out to Rick and Gabe? And Rick and Gabe, what was the one thing that made Jeff stand out to you?
It's a good question. I think they were able to truly see how excited I was about this opportunity. Again, I think it helped that our vision and values aligned, and you guys are going to get sick of me saying this, but we're going to turn this into the premier franchise of the NBA. And the fact that, again, that there was no hesitations in terms of how we were going to do it. It may take a process, and we're not going to skip steps, but I think that's what ultimately helped that we were completely in alignment from that standpoint.
Jeff, Steve Reed from the Associated Press. Welcome to Charlotte. I just wonder if you can tell us, you've had a chance now to probably look at the roster. What are your thoughts on how you go about turning this into a premier franchise in the NBA? What do you feel like needs to improve?
Thanks, Steve. I want to say thank you to the entire team for coming out and showing support, first of all. But look, I'm very excited about our roster. We have I think we have different kind of phases. We have a young core group and LaMelo, Brandon, Mark, Miles, and then we got some veterans and Davis and Seth, Cody, Grant, and just some more developmental pieces and Bryce and Nick and JT. So look, I think we have a lot of good pieces. I'm excited to take this time, quite frankly, to evaluate and see exactly what where we can tweak some things to get better. I had a chance to spend some time with them yesterday, and one of my main things was just like, let's use these last 21 games to get better. There's no excuse that we can't have individual goals and collective goals led by Coach Cliff, and just sit down and really use this time to get better and improve.
Jeff, Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Welcome to Charlotte. I wonder what you would tell directly to Hornets fans who have been a very passionate group for many years, also have now experienced the longest playoff drought in the NBA and are frustrated about that. What would you tell them? How far away is this process that you're speaking of?
Yeah, Scott, thank you. I don't think it's fair to necessarily put a timeline on it. As I said, when the three of us sat down and realized that this was, the best direction that we're going to go, it's not fair. We want to skip steps. We want it to happen organically. Now, I will say all three of us are very competitive, so we're going to find ways to try to expedite that without jeopardizing our future in any fashion. So, as Rick and Gabe have both touched on, character's the number one priority in this organization. We're going to continue to build around that. Hopefully these guys can play a little basketball as well, and we'll go from there. Just continue to bring the energy. Again, I'm fortunate I get to go to each NBA arena and scout and watch games. And, ever since I was able to do that for a living, Charlotte has always been a place that I thought had the best fans in the NBA. Again, just their passion, their knowledge, their loyalty, and there will be hope. We just have to continue to stay patient and just know that we're going to not skip steps, because our main goal is to have sustainable success, right? We don't want to make the playoffs one year and then we're out for another 3 or 4 years. We want this thing to be sustainable and turn into a consistent winner.
Jeff, over here, Will Pelagic from WFNZ in Charlotte. In terms of the timeline, you mentioned the fact that, there's still a lot you can possibly learn out of 21 games, but how does that maybe change how you evaluate this last little bit, with it being a smaller sample size? And for Gabe and Rick, how imperative is that timeline to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of making decisions on roster and also even coaching staff?
Yeah, you know what? I actually look at it as a positive. I know it's a small sample size, but it's better than no sample size at all. So I think every day you're trying to collect a little bit more data and figure out how to factor it into those decisions. But I see it as actually a blessing, because most of the time, obviously in these situations, the turnover doesn't happen until the summer. So I'm looking at it as a positive.
Jeff, Nick Carboni from NBC here in Charlotte. Welcome. Bit of a question for you and also Rick and Gabe. What do you think of what they were able to do as owners to put together the trade deadline that they did, and their knowledge of the game? And for Gabe and Rick, you call Jeff the chief basketball decision maker. How involved will you guys be in key decisions and any decisions for these franchise and this roster?
Yeah, for a minute I was like, they may not even hire a GM. They may just be GM, co-GMs, assistant GMs. But no, in all seriousness, I thought they did a nice job. I think, again, they're realistic in terms of their approach. So in any situation, if you can step back and reflect and say, listen, in order to get where we ultimately want to go, we may have to make some short-term decisions that's going to help us in the future. So, again, being able to add Seth, Davis, Vasa, and Trey, Grant to this mix, obviously a couple assets, picks. So I think they did a really nice job in terms of just putting the whole picture in perspective.
Jeff, Michael Seth from Queen City News. Oh, I'm sorry.
You guys don't really want to hear from us, but I will answer the question on to make it clear. Jeff will be the chief decision maker in our basketball ops, but of course everything will be done in consultation with us. But Jeff will be the driver of those decisions with his team, and we do have passion for basketball. We did go through the deadline. I just would add in the deadline, because we haven't had a chance to talk about it, but there's a bunch of these guys here. We set out in the deadline to acquire assets. We didn't necessarily plan to get better, but we did get better. So we got assets and we got better. We brought in 5 unbelievably high character guys into our locker room who have made a big difference for our team. And so we're proud to have all 5 of the guys as Hornets. They represent what we're going to be about, and I think they've really changed the dynamic for our guys. And we now feel great about the group. And obviously we're battling every night without a couple of our young players. And that was an important deadline and a first step, but having someone here with Jeff's caliber who help us do it going forward.
Yeah, the other point I'd add to that is, we view this as a partnership. We really wanted somebody that would partner with us, and that was one of the special things about Jeff, is his ability to, partner with a wide variety of constituents.
Jeff, Michael Seth from Queen City News. Injuries have been a major part of the story of this team for the last 2 years. I know they're a part of the game, but how can that be addressed to keep guys healthy and keep guys on the floor?
Yeah, Mike, I think that's a fair question. You hit it on the head. It is part of the game. Some of them, I think, have just been, quite frankly, a little bit unlucky. Seth came down the other day, got his ankle, and, just random things happen. It is part of it. But I think, look, quite frankly, it's something that over these next 20, 21 games, I'm going to be able to sit back and evaluate and see if there's a way that we can, avoid them. Sometimes I think you can, sometimes you can't. It's just unfortunate. So.
Down here in the front, Mike Solarte, Spectrum News 1. I want to go back to Matt Raczynski's first question for Gabe and Rick, because you guys were, what made, and I have a follow-up as well. Jeff, why was Jeff the guy in your eyes? This is for Matt.
Well, I think, there's a few things. When we're looking for someone who possesses both very high EQ, or ability to manage people, get along with people, have relationships, very high IQ, intellect, can make decisions, can look around corners, and then ultimately the most important thing maybe is drive to be successful. And Jeff has all 3 of those, so put those 3 together with a really good cultural fit, similar value system, and someone who could be with us for his career. We wanted someone who looked at it and said, I can do this for 20 years, and I want to be part of something special. And obviously, Jeff, being only 35 years old, has a long tenure in front of him of great success. And so, he'll be here probably, hopefully, long after I'm not, and that was the goal.
Yeah, I would agree with all that and just add leadership. I think with Jeff, we've already seen, he's somebody that people believe in. We certainly believe in him. He's somebody that people want to work with and for. And ultimately, this is a leadership role. And I think from the outside, you look at it and say, okay, the head of basketball ops made this decision or that decision, but there's a team behind them. And so the ability to integrate some of the talent we have currently on our basketball ops team, the ability to bring in additional talent, that takes real leadership. And I think that's something that he possesses at the highest level.
That was for Matt. Now my question for Jeff. You guys have talked about making the Hornets the premier NBA franchise. Where's the pressure level as you step in at the age of 35 with two owners that believe in you and have your back. Where's the pressure level for you to make that happen?
I don't feel any pressure. I think, again, I just keep going back to, I think it's an incredible opportunity. I'm 35, but I've also seen a lot in this league. Been in it for now 12 years, and a lot of things happen in Atlanta, and a lot of things happen in Brooklyn. So I think I'm fortunate to have those experiences. So I don't see this pressure. I go back to an incredible opportunity to partner with these guys, and as Gabe just touched on, the basketball operations staff to ultimately, turn this into the premier franchise.
Eric Spanberg with the Business Journal over here. I have a question for Gabe and Rick, and then Jeff as well. For Gabe and Rick, there was just the news in the past week or so about expanding the practice center and building it sooner, about a $130 million project, which is roughly double what it was going to be before. So I'd like to hear a little bit about what you're going to do in addition that warrants that. And then for Jeff, I'm curious, what's your assessment of the facilities and the things you need to have to not only bring in players, but to keep players and build that premier franchise?
For the practice facility, look, I think it's really important that we have state-of-the-art practice facility. If we want to become the premier franchise, we need a great arena, we need a great practice facility. I think that can create better collaboration between the different elements of basketball, and obviously for our players, we want a great experience. Some of the increase in the cost is just relative to when we started the project. The reality is we've had tremendous inflation in the economy and in building costs, and so that's an element. And some of it is, and it's not totally defined yet, but in visiting other practice facilities throughout the NBA, you get a lot of ideas, and you kind of see the latest and greatest is typically the best because you incorporate all those ideas, and we get the opportunity to layer those into what we're trying to do and make sure that this makes the most sense and is the best outcome for our players. And it's definitely something that we think is worthy of investment.
Yeah, to me, it's more about the people you're working with and the product, that we're able to put out there. So, look, we could work right here and we'll figure it out. So I'm not worried about that. I am excited about the practice facility. The goal is, of course, to make it a place that's desirable for the players first and foremost, and the staff to never want to leave. If it's you want to get away because you're stressed at home and you want to work on your game, or you want to bring your kids up there. So I'm excited to build that out with Gabe and Rick.
Hey Jeff, Jeremy Granison, ESPN Charlotte. You mentioned your relationship with Gabe and Rick, but you also have a relationship with Steve Clifford. Can you just talk about your relationship with not only the front office but also the coaching staff as well? Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. It's funny. You never know how life's gonna work out. So Cliff and I, we crossed paths in Brooklyn. He was a part of our coaching staff there, and before that, I didn't know him. I thought he was just this angry guy that never that never smiled and stuff. But I quickly realized that was not true, whether it was at dinners or on the golf course or whatever it was. And I'm so thankful to be able to really have that year with him, because I learned, I can't tell you how valuable it was just to sit with him and pick his brain and stories and what he's seen that's been successful, what hasn't been successful. So no, I'm excited to be reunited with Cliff.
Hey Jeff, John Treach, WCCB. You're of the age where the Hornets became wildly popular among young people as you were growing up. What are some maybe your foundational impressions of the organization, and whether it be the starter jackets or the Lonzo and Larry, do you have any of those? Yeah, all that. I mean, growing up playing NBA Jam, Lonzo, Baron Davis, Muggsy, the starter jackets, all that stuff. I always liked the colors. So yeah, spent a lot of time playing with Charlotte on the video games.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Again, thank you to Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin for spending some time with us, and welcome to Jeff Peterson, our new Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations. That's going to do it for today's press conference. We look forward to seeing everyone back here on Saturday evening for the Hornets game against the Brooklyn Nets. Thanks, everyone.